Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, March 11th, Middlesex County meeting. It is 1 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order.
We acknowledge that the land we stand upon today is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Lenni-Pequot peoples who have long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames First Nation, and Munsee Delaware Nation. We acknowledge the treaties that are specific to this area: Treaty 2, McKee Purchase; Treaty 3, Between the Lakes Purchase; Treaty 6, London Township Purchase; Treaty 21, Longwoods Purchase; and Treaty 29, Huron Tract Purchase. We value the significant contributions, both in the past and the present, of local and regional First Nations of Turtle Island. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect.
I disclose your pecuniary interest. If you have any, please forward them through to the clerk. This time I need approval of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Mayhew, seconded by Councillor McMillan. Sorry, they switched your signs around. All in favor? Carried. We need the adoption of the minutes, and the first set of it is the February 11th, February 18th, and the February 27th open and special meetings. Moved by Councillor DeVete, seconded by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. And secondly, for the closed session meetings of February 18th and closed for February 27th. Councillor Clark, Councillor McMillan, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Oh, we also need a mover and a seconder for recommendations made by the committee of the whole as set out by the minutes of February the 11th, 2025 meeting to be adopted. Moved by Councillor McGuire, Councillor Grantham, all in favor? Carried. We do have a motion pending from February 18th on our county budget. Just before we get into that, I do have some comments that Councillor Smybert had asked me to read. She'd like to thank the staff and the committee members for their assistance with the budget process. Staff did a great job of addressing our concerns. Looking forward, having the asset management plan in addition to zero-based budgeting for each department service will help us with a longer-term vision and financial plan. Those are comments from Councillor Smybert. And we do have a motion in front of us that has been deferred from the last meeting. Are we putting that motion up?
So maybe I'll just walk council through where we left off at the last meeting. There was a motion that was moved and seconded, and it's on the screen right now. And then a motion was made to amend that motion. And this is the amending motion. And so we will we'll vote on this amending motion first. And if that passes, we will then vote on the motion as amended.
Moved by Councillor DeVete, seconded by Councillor Grantham.
Sorry, we already have a mover and a seconder for these. We just need to vote on the motion to amend. So go to the second one, Rebecca. So this motion is to add that underlined language.
Right, I'm sorry. That was already moved and seconded at the previous meeting. All right, we just need in favor of that, of the amendment.
Just give it a minute to read it. So the underlined language there is what's being added to the original motion. And we're voting on adding that language to the original motion that's on the floor.
Any questions on that before we vote? Is there any questions? Councillor Clark.
Yes, I'm in favor of a housing advocate, but I'd want to know the structure around it and when it's to start, because I think some staff members are already doing a bit of work in that area that I don't want to pay to duplicate those services. So, yeah, I guess that's where my lack of comfort lies.
So I will just note that there was a motion already passed at the last meeting. Council already directed for that to be included, so we can't take it out at this stage without a reconsideration. But certainly, maybe Cindy, did you want to speak?
Is there any other questions or comments before we vote on this? Seeing none. In favor? Opposed? One opposed, it is carried.
So now we would need to vote on the motion as amended.
Any questions on that? Councillor Burkhart Jessen.
Thank you, Chair. And I realized that I was not part of the general discussion at the budget discussion back in February. So I just ask for a little patience as I'm kind of up to speed. And just so I understand, and I understand that it was already voted on to the housing advocate to be funded through tax rate stabilization. Can I just understand how that happens? Like, we'll take the money from tax rate stabilization. It's going to fund this employee like forever, or how, or is it every year then we're going to have to look at this position? Is it a contract position? And then if we end up with a surplus, will that money go back into tax rate stabilization? I guess because I am concerned that we're funding not only, well, I'll call it a project, the position, a project through tax rate stabilization. It's never been my understanding that that's what tax rate stabilization's for. So.
Thanks through the warden to the counselor. So thanks very much for your questions. In regards to, in this budget, we had a business case and it was asking for $500,000 and it had a number of things that were associated with that. The request here is just for the one piece, which is a staffing position. So the business case was for 3 years, but we would still have to come back every year and put that amount in the budget and get approval each one of the 3 years. But that was the purpose. So it's not going to always continue on. It was just to be for a period of time. In terms of clarity around whether it's a contract or whether it's a full-time position, I'm more than happy to come back to council, because this is our new direction around the staff, is to come back and talk in detail about the position, what they can accomplish this year and how we move into the next 2 years and what we're looking for around this. Because it's a bit of a shift by just going to position versus the whole collective package.
Okay, and then just how, again, just speaking for taking the money from tax rate stabilization, is there a thought that it will be paid back into tax rate stabilization or no?
Through the warden to the counselor, no, it wouldn't be repaid back. If there is a surplus, we could put it back. However, I'd like to be able to come back and have a fulsome discussion with council around, here's a position, here's what we're looking at. And if there's any maybe other initiatives that we can get done during the year as well within that piece, we'd like to be able to talk about that. And Dirk, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add about that.
No, I guess I would just, the business case was sort of with a person and programming. So if this direction is given by council, I think staff would hope to have a little bit of time to revisit the business case, figure out what could be done with just that person versus what other people are doing, and then come back before anyone's hired or before any steps are taken and just have council review that. So there'd be just that one more kick at it based on the new parameters.
And just one more, Chair, if you don't mind. And again, this may not be appropriate. It may be more appropriate for when you bring the report back on what we think that position will look like, but it's already March. Looking to hire, obviously that person won't be in a position, won't have that job for a year when we go back into budget discussions in the fall. So that's just a comment.
Okay, any other questions? We have the motion up in front of us that has been moved and seconded. We just need again to vote on this motion. In favor? Opposed? One opposed. It is carried. Thank you. Our next item of business is 5A2, and that is a tender for hot mix asphalt contract. Ryan.
Thank you, Warden, through you to council. We have a hot mix contract tender that closed on Thursday, February 26th. We received 4 bids for the contract, and Branco was the low bid. They were our low bidder last year as well, and we found their work to be acceptable. So we are suggesting that they get the bid again this year. The total bid price was $5,645,518.40 plus tax. The county portion of it was $4,493,624.40 with tax. The remaining is with our partners. A couple municipalities joined with us in this tender. And we basically suggest that we accept the low bid from Branco Construction.
Thanks, Ryan. Questions for Ryan on this? No questions? Counselor Mayhew? You're moving it?
I'll move.
I have a question just before you move that, if that's all right. Ryan, first, is this fit within what we have budgeted for it? And the second part of this question is, when you're partnering with other municipalities, with lower tier municipalities, does the county look after the project all the way through, like for the lower tiers as well? Or the lower tier take over that?
Through you, Warden. Yes, so this was actually below what we had budgeted so far for this year. So that was very, that was reassuring for us. And also regarding our partners, it depends on the project. We do have one project with North Middlesex. We're going to work together in lining it up, but North Middlesex is doing all the pre-construction work beforehand, so it'll be on their timelines. And the stuff with Adelaide Metcalf, we're doing the construction work, so we look after all of it. And then again with Luke and Badolf, they're going to be telling us when they want the contractors in. So we
Okay,
work with
perfect.
them on timing.
So it's different arrangements and
Different arrangements
agreements.
for each municipality, whatever works best for them.
Perfect, thank you. And this is moved by Counselor Mayhew. Need a seconder? Seconder, Counselor Clark. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And Ryan, you have the next one as well. That's for the tender for the cold in place asphalt recycling.
Thank you, Warden, through you to council. Again, this one closed on February 26th. We had 3 bids and Lavis was the low bidder again. They've gotten our contract for probably the last 10 years. And we've always had no issues with their work. The total bid price of this tender was $4,063,068.50. And again, this fell within our estimated budget range for this work, and we recommend that the bid be accepted.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions for Ryan on this? Seeing none, we're looking for a motion. Counselor Burkhart Jessen and Counselor Grantham, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Inquiries. Counselor Burkhart Jessen.
Thanks. And through the chair, I see Josh has made his way up here. So this might be a question for Josh, Cindy, and Chris. And it has to do with our procurement policy and just the discussion points that seem to be happening on an hourly basis with regards to tariffs. And I wondered, I guess, how does our procurement policy speak, to purchasing local, purchasing Canadian, or giving us other options? I think that in certain areas where we do business, I think that there's some areas where to be quite frank, our hands are likely tied with where we can actually purchase items to continue to do business. But number one, at a staff level, has there been a discussion with how we can look at purchasing different? Does our procurement policy speak to that? And not, I don't know if I'm saying at this point, you know, to actually come out with a forceful buy local, buy Canadian statement, but at least to know the parameters that we're working with.
Sure, through the warden to the counselor. So I'll summarize. All the lower tier municipalities received this summary last week. They've had some questions, understandably, about the situation. So to date, county staff has been following guidance that has been presented to us by the Ontario Public Buyers Association. Beyond the trade agreements that we are required to abide by, noting that the USMCA agreement as a municipality, we don't actually fall under the parameters of. We also are required to abide by legal precedent and any sort of legislation, both with the province or the federal government. Where we run into trouble in this situation, or challenges, I should say, is the province of Ontario's Discriminatory Business Practices Act, which prevents discrimination in Ontario for a number of things, but including geographical location of persons employed or engaging in business, which to date has prevented municipalities from displaying preferential treatment to local or even Canadian suppliers. That said, there is an exemption within the Act where the discriminatory business practice can be in accordance with federal and provincial policy. As everyone is aware, there have been numerous announcements in regards to procurement at the provincial and the federal level. So we are expecting at some point that there'd be some sort of policy enacted, and once policy is formally enacted, municipalities can align theirs in correspondence. So we're really waiting for that to proceed in that direction. And what that direction would look like would probably be a temporary amendment to our current procurement bylaw.
Okay, Counselor. Counselor Grantham.
And I'm going to thank Councillor Burkhart Jessen for the segue, because I want to talk about shop local. So this Thursday at 11 o'clock, municipality of Strathroy Caradoc, along with our local Chamber of Commerce, BIA, and the Mount Bridges Business Persons Association are announcing a shop local campaign. We're having a media event, and we have stickers for businesses and signs and placards. So we're doing what we can to promote shop local within our municipality. So if you're free, warden, you'd like to come down to Strathroy Caradoc, we'd welcome you.
Any other inquiries? Notices of motion? Counselor comments or other business? No, I'm looking for a motion to go into committee of whole. Moved by Counselor McGuire, seconded by Counselor Clark. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Delegations, we have none. Report from county officers, and the first one is partnership for municipal innovation. And I think Marcy, you're doing that.
Thank you, Warden, through you to council. Last month, Middlesex County hosted a delegation of local government officials from Cambodia as part of our commitment to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Partnerships for Municipal Innovation Women in Local Leadership Project. Through this project, members of council and staff have traveled to Cambodia, and this is the first time that we have hosted our Cambodian partners here. Next slide. We had an action-packed 3 days, which included a tour of the Komoko Wellness Center and our Komoko Library branch, meeting Olympic champion Scott Moyer, tasting maple syrup at Fort Rose Maple Company, learning about economic development and tourism in the county, engaging with our Women in Leadership panel on inclusive governance, exploring public health programs at Middlesex London Health Unit, touring Heman's Greenhouse, and discovering community paramedicine at MLPS. In terms of insights gained, it became evident over the 3 days that women in leadership positions face similar challenges regardless of where they live. Balancing work with responsibilities at home is a theme that resonated with all of our participants, both from Middlesex and Cambodia. We want to thank all of the staff and council members who participated in this exchange, as well as the health unit, MLPS, Middlesex Center staff, library staff, economic development staff, Scott Moyer, Fort Rose, and Hemans. This would not have been the success it was without all of your help. So thank you to everyone, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments from council? Councillor DeVito.
Thank you, Warden, through you. I'll just echo your comments, Marcy. The staff here at the county building, as well as those that work in local facilities and the businesses were welcome hosts. And when the people were leaving, it was very clear that they felt welcomed and were sad to leave. So they had a great time and experience, and I'm very appreciative for all the help that was given by staff and everyone who worked on getting this done. So kudos to all of you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I would say that on Monday morning when I first met them, I was very interested in listening to their reports and what they're working on, water and wastewater. And it was interesting where they're at and how much we take for granted compared to some of the things. But it was very interesting to hear their reports. It was very good. Thank you. We need a motion to accept that for information. Councillor Clark, Councillor DeVito, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, Consolidated Municipal Service Manager, Paul.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Warden. This was a placeholder for an update on the CMSM negotiations. However, at this point in time, the city has not been able to provide us with updated language and agreements for consideration. So at this point is just to say we remain status quo with the previous direction of council. The city's working diligently to get over those updated agreements for our first pass review. They've noted specifically the childcare agreement with the updates to the legislative framework is delaying them a little bit, but we will continue to update council as we get more information. And the County City Liaison Committee meeting was rescheduled due to weather, where there would have been an update on this. So now that's scheduled for the beginning of April. And just with the timelines in the agreement, we still wanted to provide an update to council about the status and that everyone's working to ensure we stay within those timelines outlined within the agreements.
Thank you, Paul. Is there any questions for Paul at this time? I don't know how many answers you'd have for that right now, but we need a motion to accept that report. Councillor Grantham, seconded by Councillor McMillan, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next item is 9B3, and that's social services update. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, and through the warden to council. So thanks for having me this afternoon. Just want to give an update around social services for the 2024 year and partly into 2025. So as you know, social services includes children's services, Ontario Works, and homelessness prevention. Most of the funding that we receive for these three different areas are provincially funded, where there is some municipal contributions. That's mostly for the administration cost of things. 2024 was another year of change for us. Lots of new guidelines, new policies, new processes that myself and the team and Cindy have gone through and implemented over 2024. Regardless, though, we've had lots of successes, and that's some of the things that I'm going to bring up, go through today. Going to start with children's services. So in 2024, again, the Canada-wide early learning and childcare agreement was still in place, and we continue to grow through the directed growth plan childcare centers where we could. The plan in itself, the agreement in itself has now actually been extended until 2031, according to the newspaper. So we're still waiting for final confirmation on that. As you can see, though, through the past from 2019 till now, our budget has exponentially increased, and we are now up to about $17.5 million. That's a big change for our internal staff. The provincial funding, the framework in itself, how we fund our childcare centers has also fundamentally changed as of January 1st, 2025. We are now doing it as a cost-based funding approach, where before it was we would fund the individuals and they would do attestations back. Now it's based off of what is our true actual funding costs. We will be coming forward in the next couple months with a new funding agreement, as all of the some of the changes have been made. We do have to update our funding agreement, so we will be coming back to council for review and approval. As I mentioned, just with the increase of the budget amounts, it has increased a lot of our administrative work internally for both ourselves, but also our childcare centers. We are hoping, I mean, the intent is that this new process of the cost-based funding approach will reduce some of the administration work, but as of right now, we have not seen some of those changes. And internally, we will be now doing audits by reviewing budgets in a much more intensive way than we have in the past. One good thing that's come through Canada-wide early learning childcare agreement is that we are getting closer to that average of $10 to $12 per day, and we're hoping to meet that by 2026. But right now, it's as of January 1st, it was reduced down to $22 per day. Just some general overviews of where we are with some of our stats and our licensed childcare spaces. As you can see, since 2020, we have had 165% increase in spaces, which is amazing. So we have gone from about, oops, I lost my notes here for a second. Sorry, 461 spaces to 1,150 spaces. So, and we will be seeing an increase again in 2026. We've had 4 new centers open since 2020. And then also with 2 of them opening in 2026 in both Kilworth and Lucan, where both will be 88 spaces. So we're excited for those and those growing communities. Fee subsidy, you'll see that we only have 109 children on our list right now. That has been a reduction of about 30% since 2019. Reason being is because the cost of childcare has also reduced. So now, because of having that $22 per day, it has made some families childcare more affordable for families that do not need that will not be accessing fee subsidy. That doesn't mean that fee subsidy is not available for low-income families. They still can apply for fee subsidy, which is through our website, and the applications go directly to Kelly Smith. Okay. Next, I'm going to move over to Ontario Works. One stat that I thought was kind of interesting and really good, a positive thing that we've been working on is that our 5+ individuals that have been on Ontario Works for more than 5 years. We've done a lot of intensive work around that population because we realized that we had quite a few, not quite a few, but enough individuals that like, okay, what's going on? What's getting them stuck? How do we move them forward? So we have seen a 21% reduction in our 5+ individuals, which means that they are moving to either employment, to education, or to ODSP, which is the Ontario Disability Support Program, which is a little more funding than what Ontario Works provides. So 11% just in 2024. The one caveat to that, what I'll say, is that we have seen a 7% increase in clients accessing services that are under 5 years. So yes, we are supporting folks that are over 5 years, but we are seeing an increase, and we probably will continue to see an increase in 2025, 2026 of individuals accessing services. So the work's not done yet, but we are continuing to work through it with the caseworkers. So you can see that 114 individuals found full or part-time employment, which is pretty much on par for the last couple of years. So even with all the transitions and all the changes, the caseworkers have been working really hard to provide employment supports and supports through stability for the clients. This is also, so I jumped down to the social assistance modernization. We're kind of in the last phase of the social assistance modernization. So the digital services delivery, so that is our EDM, electronic document management. So we have a contract with Nimble, which I will be bringing that contract back to council in the upcoming months. to digitize all of our ongoing current files. We are looking at a process to look at what are we doing with some of our older files that we have to maintain for up to 7 years by legislation. Integrated employment services is used to be employment services transformation. No more transformation. We are now fully integrated employment services with Employment Ontario, which kind of goes with the 114 individuals that found employment. So even through that transition, working with our Employment Ontario partners, we've seen success for our folks as we move them along. The last one is the centralized intake, and that's kind of the last phase that we're in. It's partially completed where some of the applications are going through. It's called the intake benefit adjudication unit. But coming up in 2025, 2026, we'll see. We haven't quite heard exactly when, where most of all of the applications will be going through this new intake benefit adjudication unit. With that, though, it then provides more time for caseworkers to provide those stability supports for individuals that are low income, that are accessing Ontario Works supports. Our caseworkers have already been doing a lot of this work. This just provides a little more time for them to be able to do it, and we can expand on some of the roles that they're doing. Part of through that, some new trainings that we've been providing for the team, just because with some of the questions that they're asking, they are hearing maybe a little more in depth in some of the stories from some of the clients that we're supporting. So we've worked on doing mental health first aid training, trauma-informed care training, and motivational interviewing. We've actually done it in partnership with our Employment Ontario sites and some of our other external community partners to make sure that we're having the same conversations, same language, being able to support the person the best we can across the person's path. Okay, and lastly, homelessness prevention. So in 2024, 2025, we had an increase of funding to about 1.4 million, which is a great increase from what we've had in the past. That being said, that also means that we have seen an increase in our homelessness individuals that we've been supporting through Middlesex County. One thing that I'd say that we really try to strive for is to provide those individual wraparound services and supports, that it's not just, one thing fits all. It's really looking at the person and how do we support that individual and wherever they are, whether they're in their home community, in another community, how do we best support them through their path? Excuse me. One of the things that to do that so I lead the Middlesex Homeless Action Committee, which we have 14 community partners who join in on a monthly basis to go through what are the needs, what are we seeing, what's the new trends or new things that are out there, that how do we make sure that we're using our homelessness prevention program dollars effectively and appropriately for the individuals that we're seeing in the community. One thing that we did notice, and Josh Smith, who is our community navigator, he would say is that his services has increased quite a bit. So we did use some of the HPP funding from 2024, 2025 to add a second community navigator. So Danica Flores is our second community navigator, and we are expanding some of the services that they're able to provide, making sure that we're being out in the community in each of your communities, as well as supporting in a different way to the Middlesex Accommodations Program. So lead way into the Middlesex Accommodations Program. So I'm going to have a few stats on the next slide that I'll go through them, but I will say that in 2024, 2025, we did expand from 9 rooms to 11 rooms. And we did see an increase in a need for the number of rooms, so we used some of that funding as well. The collaboration between organizations, I really wanted to put this on there because I would say that a lot of the work that we do, we couldn't just do it alone. A lot of the community partners who are out there that they're on MHAC or just community partners, the amount of collaboration that we work together to support these individuals is great. There's not, this is our funding, this is your funding. It's how do we support this person individually? So I just want to give a shout out to the community partners because really we couldn't do it alone, and they're a great collaborator. COB, which is the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit. We did only get 11 spaces in 2024, but that was because there wasn't a lot of spaces that were provided through the City of London. So the City of London is our CMSM, as was mentioned earlier. So they got a reduction, so we only got a small percentage. But the second that we get our COB allowances, we fill them the best that we can and as quick as we can with appropriate people. Outreach supports in the community. This was something that was new as well, and this is in partnership with CMHA, Thames Valley Addiction Mental Health Services. So this is where a community navigator and one of the CMHA staff will go out to the community and meet individuals where they are. So we are hearing that somebody is living unsheltered or rough or in their car. We will actually go out and speak to that person and invite them in for services. We don't provide direct services there. We say, you know what, here's some other services. Come, we can do an application or a referral to the MAP program or other housing or homelessness supports, so that people aren't just left out to their own devices, that we make sure that we're connecting with individuals. Food insecurity is probably one of the fastest growing parts of my job, is around folks that are homeless, but also individuals that are low income. Times are getting tough for folks, potentially tougher as the next couple of months unfold. So food insecurity is a big thing for food banks and for meal programs. So we do fund both food banks and meal programs throughout the county to ensure that folks have enough money to be able to provide those much needed services. A winter response. I'm going to talk a little bit more on the next page with some of that because I have some stats around it. But again, for our winter response is again, those individualized support. So when we've heard of anybody that is living unsheltered or rough, we go meet them. We ask them how we can help them, either return them to their home community if they're not from Middlesex County, or provide space at the MAP or at our local motel as well. Community education, we're always trying to make sure that we have the right information for council, but also for the community to understand what rural homelessness looks like. So we are working with the Rural Development Network to actually update our website a little bit more, to not only provide services and supports, but some of that information around what does rural homelessness look like in the county, in Middlesex specifically, and how do we support it? What can the public do? All that sort of stuff. So you'll see that coming up in 2025. And the last is just the Housing Stability Action Plan. So this is something that myself, Cindy, Dirk, we are working with the City of London to update the housing plan. So our current one is choice begins with change, or change begins with choice, sorry. And so what you will see with this next plan is that it's actually going to be more encompassing of both Middlesex and London. And so it will be one plan instead of Middlesex being an addendum. So if you remember the childcare service system plan, it will look a lot like that. I just also want to say thank you to all the counselors who took the time to meet with myself and Nicole Kovacs, who is doing the review. Just want to say thank you so much for taking the time, because it's really valuable to hear your input and what's going on in your local communities. All right. And next, these are just kind of some stats, some good stats, I think, about what we've been able to accomplish. So our strong partnership with CMHA, who's contracted to run the Middlesex Accommodations Program. So in 2024, we had 77 individuals that came through that program, 12 of them being children between the ages of 0 and 17. And the head of households, one kind of stat was interesting to me, that it was almost a direct split between female and male as who the head of households and who are we servicing, and also the income source. So you'll see that Ontario Works is our largest area that we are supporting. But if you look down, there is still 10% of individuals that are employed. And we are seeing that a little bit again as a rise of individuals that are employed that still aren't able to afford housing or find housing. We had an individual that was living in their car, and we're trying to support them with a place to shower. How do we get some food to them? All that sort of stuff. So unfortunately, I think I see that stat will start to increase a little bit more as well as time goes on. One fund that we just call it the Whatever It Takes Fund, because really it is exactly that. We try to keep people housed where they can and where it's appropriate. We know it's really exponentially harder once somebody becomes homeless to get them rehoused. So how do we help them get stay in where they are, and how do we maintain that residence that they're in? So the three that are listed there, so last month's rent, rental arrears, and utility arrears were the top three kind of areas of where that funding went to. And those again are to either get people housed or to maintain where they're living, because we want to make sure, can they go there, can they stay there, and is it appropriate for them to stay there? And then the last is just kind of going back to that winter response piece. So we had 26 individuals that we provided hotel or motel stays from probably about November to, I want to say, February, that we were supporting folks through that hotel motel stay. And that's partly from different referrals. So it was a community outreach. So that went back to the other page where the community navigator and CMHA would reach out. But it was also referrals through things like MCERT, the Mobile Crisis Response Team, CMHA as a whole, YOU, just different community partners that were that attend the Middlesex Middlesex Homeless Action Committee. Because really that was one of the first questions I always asked when we met was, all right, who do we know that's living unsheltered? And for a lot of the time, there's lots of individuals that at some points, we didn't know of anybody that was living unsheltered in Middlesex County. So it's really great to hear. But then again, it's that hidden homelessness. Are we missing people? How do we do better and different for next year to make sure that we're not missing people as well as we go through it? So. And that's a lot about it. So, we had a lot of successes in 2024. We're excited to see what 2025 brings us. It's a lot of hard work and dedication from the social services staff here at Middlesex County. So thank you. And Cindy and I are here for any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Questions? I think Councillor Burkhart-Jessen, you had your hand up.
Thank you. And through the warden, thank you very much for that report. There's a lot of information. You've been busy. I do have a couple questions. On the new licensed childcare spaces that are coming in Kilworth and Lucan, I know the one in Lucan is specifically tied to the school. I think the one in Kilworth is as well. And is that, are both those centers going to be from like 0 to 6 or 0 to 12? So I'll start with that question first.
So thank you. And through the warden to councillor, yes, so the 88 spaces will be 0 to 12. So it will be your infant, toddler, preschool, and before and after care as well.
Okay, thanks for that. With the MAP program, so I think you're seeing success with the work that you're doing. So congratulations. No surprise that obviously I'm a big supporter of this. I know that probably 18 months ago, there was talk about, trying to transition it into having it look different. I mean, I think it is a great setup, having the motel. I mean, you've got the rooms, you've got the office space. I know that there's concern with it, just being in Adelaide Metcalfe on the outskirts of a urban center. But have we thought about what the program will look like as we move through? Because, I don't think it was lost on any of us, that you're anticipating that there's going to be more call for supports from the county. So what is it that we are doing to kind of transition it? And then the other question I just had was just on the 77 that were supported, were there any above and beyond that 77 that we tried to support, but then for whatever reasons this maybe wasn't successful for them.
Thank you, through the warden to counselor. So I'll kind of try to break it down into the two questions. So the first question was around the location of MAP. And I think, Cindy and myself, Dirk, we continue to have conversations about what does this program look like? And is that the right location for it? I will say in the last round, there was a delay in us getting our approval for some of our funding until about September of 2024. So we weren't able to kind of get all, our feet under us to kind of figure out where it is. We also are having conversations continually about supportive housing and what does that look like? And should there be kind of a combination of both supportive housing and the MAP program? And what does that look like? So I think, for right now, I think the other piece was we just want to make sure we were continuing to get our funding, which I forgot to actually mention. So I am working with the city right now on our 2025, 2026. And as of right now, my understanding that we're going to have the same funding as what we received last year. So that helps to know that funding is going to be continuing at this amount, that we can really look at where is the location that would be the most beneficial for individuals. I will say that, anecdotally speaking with some of the CMHA workers that talk to the clients that are there, some love it being a little bit away from the downtown area of Strathroy or in the middle of areas. It kind of keeps them away from maybe some other individuals that maybe they would rather stay away from. So it's kind of a mix of where we want to make sure that it fits for us, but it also fits for the individuals that we're serving. So I'll let Cindy answer more.
Thanks for the warden to the counselor. Just in terms of, we're always looking for government initiatives that are out there, and there has been some in 2024 in order to advance this program forward. So we're continually looking at that, but you're absolutely right. I think we're going to spend quite a bit of time in 2025 and saying, okay, where are we going in the next 5 years? How are we going to get there? And looking at initiatives that may be happening in the lower tiers to say, can we partner? Can we leverage some of those programs or services or builds? So we'll be definitely coming back and having a good conversation with council and getting ready maybe before you get to AMO, if there's anything we need you to advocate on our behalf. We're definitely getting ready for that.
Okay. Yeah. So, and thank you. Back to the warden again. So out of that 77, those are 77 unique individuals. So there were actually a few people that came in a few times because we know some individuals are not quite ready for the program because it is a program. It is something that people have to put the work in to maintain being there. It is up to a 2-month program. If they're not actively engaged or involved, that's okay. We try to support them the best we can with maybe moving them to another location for a little bit until they're ready to move forward. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mayhew, you had your hand up.
Thank you very much, Warden. I enjoyed the report. I was very pleased to see that you're working with your colleague Dirk on that, the two departments working hand in hand together. The only way we're going to solve the housing crisis is with bricks and mortar. And that's what it needs. And my question is perhaps to both of you and Dirk, I regret I won't be able to make that planning meeting coming up, but it's in regard to repurposed buildings. It's funny how things come in threes very often. We just had an old beverage house right downtown Glencoe sell. The McKellar House. It's a very large building, 3-story, 3 floors. It was purchased with Toronto money. And it was funny, a window company came in the other day and put 40 brand new windows in that building. Huge investment. And, the for rent signs will be going up soon. And that will accommodate a lot of modest home environments for some people. It's certainly right within a walkable area. And that is an example of being a repurposed building. Another one, very often a senior development will become outdated and the owners build a new one. That is also happening in Southwest Middlesex. Babcock Nursing Home are building a new footprint. And what is to become of the old nursing home? I've had inquiries, could it be converted to geared to income family or something like that? So that's two. And of course, the third, I said things come in threes. In the faith community, there's many buildings that are being vacated by the congregations. And I think all municipalities have seen this, Southwest Middlesex as well. And there have been inquiries in that. So I think Dirk and your department, particularly Dirk, I think if I was at that meeting on Wednesday, I would bring this subject forward. And I'd be pleased if you take that back to the committee, Dirk, for me. It's the bricks and mortars are there. We know there's a lot of refinements that have to be made, but it is a quick way of getting bricks and mortar. And there's always they're supervised by our building departments. We know that they will be safe when those tenants go in there. And we're pleased to see the investment in the freshening up of those buildings in our communities. Thank you.
Councillor Grantham.
Thank you, Warden. Just a different spin on the question that Kathy asked regarding the MAP program, which has worked very well. It serves the western part of the county really well. My question is it serving the eastern part of our county? Could you more be done if there was another motel in the eastern side of the counties? I know it's a ways to go from Dorchester, so just that question.
Yes, thank you, through the warden to council. You're absolutely right. We do support all of Middlesex County. So there are individuals in the eastern part of Middlesex that we do support them to come to the MAP program, but then we also do support them to go back to their home community. That's really the key thing, is to try to get individuals back to the community that they're from. It's where they know where places are. They might have family members or individuals that might be there to support them. We don't have something direct in that area as of right now. There isn't a motel. We have used a Strath or St. Mary's one time for a location to put somebody in the motel there. We just don't have the same connection, I guess, that we do in the MAP and with our the motor inn that's in Strathroy. So it's just easier for us to utilize those services, because when we contract with one and the other one, it's just been a great community partner. Where it is something I think that we need to continue to look at, is how do we support better in the eastern side of Middlesex County. I will say though that if individuals do need the help, we will bring them to the MAP. We have, and then brought them back to the community once we found them appropriate accommodations. Yep.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
Yes, through the warden, thank you for your report, Joe. That was very good. Just as a follow-up to your, you alluded to the fact that several councillors participated in the interview. And will we be seeing a report back to council, and if so, when?
Great question, and thanks through the warden to councillor. Yes, so in probably April or May, we'll be coming back with kind of the draft documents on what kind of the action steps will be. I can ask to see if I can get a full copy of all the data that was collected to be shared with council. I don't think that will be an issue. Right now, through the housing Housing Stability Action Plan, sorry, working with the city, we are still waiting actually for the provincial guidelines on what that plan's actually looking at. So we are doing some of this pre-work, knowing that, well, hoping that the province is going to come back and say, what is it that's going on in your community? How, what are the services and supports that are needed? So that's why we're doing some of this pre-work. So that document will be coming to council probably in April, May for a final review. And then once we get the final guidelines from the province, a final draft will be coming to council for review at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? No other questions at this time. Thank you very much, Joe, for the report. I do need a motion to accept the social services update. Councillor Clark, Councillor Burkhart Jessen, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next action item, the first one is the award of the hot mix asphalt paving and cold asphalt recycling contracts. And Ryan, I believe you're doing that.
Thank you, Warden, through to council. This is for the acceptance of the hot mix asphalt and coal recycling paving. Bit of background is this year we're about 20% under what we estimated is what the bids came in at. Taking into account though through the year that the AC index will change. So it will likely go up a little bit, but we feel like we're still going to be well under the estimates that we had set up for this year. And the cold in place recycling is approximately 5% over, which is right about where you want to be anyways. So everything is kind of in line where we'd like to have it. The total savings for Middlesex is approximately $900,000. A recommendation is that we award the hot mix and cold mix tenders, and that any of the surplus be transferred as per requirements of PSAP.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions for Ryan at this time? On this, I think we are looking for the motion to come on the screen. You have the motion in front of you. Moved by Councillor McMillan, seconded by Councillor McGuire. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Ryan, you have the next one, the quotation for the roadside weed spraying.
Thank you, Warden, through you to council. This year's weed spray is a joint quotation as well. The county portion of it is $44,806.57. There was two quotations. The low was through Greenstream. The remaining 41,424 and 45 cents will go towards be split between the municipalities. It's a question that usually comes up in the past. This weed spray is Clearview and it does not address Phragmites, just typical ditch and road weed sprays, weed. So we just recommend that the quote be accepted.
Questions? No questions. We're getting the recommendation in front of us again. Moved by Councillor DeVeet, seconded by Councillor McGuire. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence and information items. We'll take it from 9D1 to 9D23, I believe it is. Is there any individuals that want any of these items, 1 to 23? Seeing none, I'm looking for a mover for our correspondence. Councillor Grantham, Councillor McGuire, all in favor? Carried. We are looking for a motion. Oh, I got ahead of myself again. Sorry. We need a motion to rise from committee of whole. Councillor McGuire. Councillor Burkhart Jessen, all in favor? Carried. Now we are looking for a motion to go into closed. And I think we're putting on the screen the reasons. Motion to go into closed. Councillor DeVeet, Councillor McGuire, all in favor?